Hey. Hey. What you doing? You watching me? Why? Is it because I am American Jesus and these are my opinions? Yes, the following will be and proceeding thereof are my opinions in the following and proceeding in the day. We're talking about the biggest problems in 12-step fellowships such as Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous and how detrimental they are to what is supposed to be a place to find support and help for individuals who are at the end of their road and do not wish to go on to the bitter ends, so to speak, to quote the literature itself. Today I want to talk about a false sense of knowledge. We do have professionals that are actually trained and licensed to deal with individuals, different issues. In particular, and I want to bring this up because it comes up a lot in, say, a 4-step. It comes up a lot in a 1st step. It comes up a lot in meetings, and that's trauma. You will find horrific trauma in meetings. And if you work 4 steps, you will find horrific trauma in people's 4 steps. When they read them to you, when they share them with you, when they share things that happened to them, things that they did. And the fellowships, the 12-step fellowships, Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, can do tremendous damage. Damage. When these topics come up. When these topics are approached, when people bring up trauma that they've repressed, trauma that they have possibly maybe started doing addictive behaviors to not really remember or to cope with. And then you've got, people in the fellowships that are telling them, hey, man, you need to find your part in the fact that your mom used to set you on fire every Friday if she caught you masturbating. That actually was not a thing. That's why I said it. That I had never heard, but it probably was a thing to somebody. The problem is like, oh, and you should go and you should make amends to your mom and you should blah, 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 blah. And, or your uncle or your grandma that was, borderline personality that used to make you sleep in the basement, and your drug addicted parents didn't give a shit about you. And so they dumped you off on her. And she had no business raising children. And then she became, schizophrenic and she acquired dementia, and you were a kid and you ended up having to take care of her, so you didn't end up in foster care. I'm actually making all of this stuff up. Nobody has ever told me this, but my point is that the complexity of trauma that builds on itself, and especially when the individual is young, because young people, children, are very self-centered. They are naturally self-centered because they're so helpless that they have to believe that they have some influence on everything around them. And what comes along with that, sense of, narcissistic efficacy, that would be, self-involved ability to affect change, is that they blame themselves for things that are way out of their control. If I was just nicer, then daddy wouldn't have been an alcoholic. And if I was just made better grades, then my parents might have gotten along and not split up. And if I wasn't wearing, a bikini, then, my uncle wouldn't have molested me, because they have to feel, and everyone has this, that they have control, over what happens to them. Otherwise, things are very scary, and so what comes from this is a sense of responsibility that it requires a highly trained therapist to work with them and look at this trauma and know just how to push them, know just how to reframe things, and is very committed to that individual's mental health. This is not 12-step fellowships. 12-step fellowships have no business working a 4-step. 4-step is probably the worst thing you can do, unless the person, basically the best thing you can do in a 4-step is just sit there and be like, I'm here for you. Don't give any opinions. Don't say anything that might lead them to believe that they did something wrong. There's not much that you can do right in a 4-step, to be honest with you, except for just listen to it and then just be like, I still think of you the same way I always thought of you. I still care about you. I still think you're a great person. Because that is the fear of doing a 4-step, is that an individual that I have become, I have started to trust and to build a relationship with, is only building a relationship with the facsimile of me. And if he knew what I knew about myself, then he would not like me, or she would not like me, or she would not date me, or she would not marry me, or she would, they don't understand what unconditional love and caring for another person really is, because they've never experienced it. And so they believe that this love is very conditional, that they can say something or do something that someone, that people will not understand. And so the best thing you can do is listen to a 4-step. During a 5th step, the best thing you can do is just say, I heard everything you said. I still think you're a valuable person. I still consider you a friend. So on and so forth. But this false sense of knowledge, this false sense of like armchair psychiatry and preparing you for the 7th and 8th and 9th and 6th steps, where you have to find your part in every little fucking thing that ever happened to you. While I understand it, is only something that should even be approached after the individual has a fairly stable sense of self to rebound to. You don't take a fractured individual who just rolled in off the street and start digging into his fucking traumatic childhood, and then telling him he needs to figure out what his part in it is, when what you really mean is, what could he have done to avoid the situation? If nothing, then it's not your fault. But, did you get in with the wrong people and you got arrested? And it wasn't your fault. You didn't do anything wrong, but you also knew what your friends were doing. And so in that regards, maybe in the future, you can be a little bit more selective about who you hang out with. That's what it means by your part. It doesn't mean that you deserved what happened to you necessarily. I'm just saying. It just means to figure out what it is that you could have done differently. So, But this belief that I've been in the fellowship for 22 years. I've actually studied psychology. I've studied biology. I know how the brain works. I know how the mind works. I know the ego is formed. I am very intelligent and very intelligent. But, I have a lot of theories about how things work, but I do understand that I do not have that I should be very wary of where I go with an individual who is as damaged as a lot of the individuals we come across in the 12 steps. So one of the biggest problems that we have in the 12 steps is this belief that we know more than we do. I know when I don't know. I have people who are very knowledgeable in psychology and counseling, and if I come across something and I'm like, hey, should I pursue this at all? Generally, the answer with from this person is no, you should fucking not pursue this at all. This person needs to go talk to a therapist, may need some medication when he starts dealing with, deconstructing what happened to him when he was a child or what he did. But you should definitely just be a friend to this person. So this false sense of knowledge, this belief that there's a solution in the book, and that the more you learn about the book, the more you understand about how to help people, is insanity. Because there's no solutions in the book. The book has a place. It's interesting, and it facilitates a conversation. But that's it. And the belief that reading this stupid book that was written by a freaking alcoholic, and then Jimmy K wrote, the basic text, or at least the white booklet, that Jimmy K was a freaking heroin addict who was getting kicked out of Alcoholics Anonymous because Alcoholics Anonymous was afraid that they were going to become dissolved because they kept having addicts walk into their meetings and address and talk about drugs, which was illegal in the 50s. You couldn't have drug addicts congregating, and so these people who don't even know their own history create this mythology about the singleness of purpose and blah, 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 blah. And then they try to go and help people when they don't even understand their own literature, which is generally the case in a religion. Try to find a Christian who really has some intelligent words to share with you about the Bible that are not like, no, that's what it says, and so God. That's what you get that's what you get from most people about the big book. It says you need to work a 4-step, and it says you need to be rigorously honest. So you better write it down on a piece of paper where it can be used against you in a court of law. So yeah, idiots. And that's the biggest problem with a lot of these fellowships, is that the people who are intelligent, the people who are who do have the ability to foresee problems, are run out on a rail because it requires a certain lacking in intellectual prowess to digest the book as a solution to anything. You just can't be smart, because you'll end up questioning too much stuff and you won't fit in. One of the biggest problems in Narcotics Anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous is this false sense of knowledge. You shouldn't be taking your antipsychotic because maybe the voices are just left over from when you were doing dope. Well, yeah, but I started hearing the voices when I was 5. And I was diagnosed with schizophrenia when I was 6. And the voices tell me to kill everybody. Yeah, but maybe God can fix it. Yeah. Or maybe he can open fire on everybody in the damn meeting. real good. Thanks for coming by. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you would, if you want to hear more from me. And let's go ahead and leave a comment about something that somebody said to you that was absolutely insane.
Kid, other side is something big. Do you think that what you did would bring you back to this? Hey, you taught! Hey, you taught me! Hey, you taught